Hey everyone, my name is Paul Graham, and this is the Investor's Guide to Joy Investor Series. On today's episode, we're going to be talking to John and his path in going through the different stages of wealth, as well as talking about tax deeds and a number of different creative strategies to help you with where you are at. If you are currently experiencing high tax bills for the 2024 season, reach out to me and connect with me about investing in oil and gas. This is specifically beneficial for high income earners and those who want passive investments to offset their high income tax liabilities, but don't want to continue to buy more real estate or don't want to go through with Section 179 of the tax code, which essentially is buying a 6,000 plus pound vehicle for business use. So reach out to me about taxes. Enjoy today's show. I have John Berlet here. He's going to go through a lot of his experience as an investor and the insight he's had over the years. So John, thanks for being here and sharing your wisdom.
Hey, great to be here with you too, Paul.
Yeah. And, we were talking a little bit about, your experience with the number of things you've done. I'd like to first kind of break our, time together in like three sections. So if you were someone who had like 0 to 50 grand, right, in terms of like liquid or semi-liquid sort of assets, right? So think stocks, bonds, savings, things like that. Like, what would you do knowing what you know now?
First thing I would ask that individual is just they have a Roth IRA. Absolutely the best gift Congress has given any of us, even if it's $1,000 and it's money you don't need to live on. I'd recommend you go down to credit union, even open a little savings account designated as a Roth IRA contribution.
Okay.
Because there's a 5-year rule, and for all the gains to come out totally income tax free, you have to have had the account established for 5 years.
Okay.
Somebody does not have a Roth, that's the biggest bit of tidbit I would give them to get a Roth set up.
Okay, great. Now, after I have that, kind of couple grand, or maybe it's like tens of thousands of dollars, like what would you recommend like people, should do next? Oftentimes, at least for my story, it was, go get that good paying job and increase my salary, also contribute to my 401k. And I've also had a Roth too, right? But I then used, some of the savings, right, to go buy real estate. What would your recommendation or experience be? Is it kind of like do some Roth, do some savings? Is it put everything in the Roth and kind of max it out? Or at what point do you maybe switch and go buy something?
Yeah, so much of that depends on where someone's at in life, their age, their life expectancy. There's, if they're younger, they should have a lot higher risk tolerance. If they're a little older like me, you don't have time to recover from a market correction. I love, love, love real estate. I think it should be in everybody's portfolio. I currently manage a regulation crowdfunding offering called Core Tax Deeds, and you can get in with as little as $2,000 and actually have equity ownership in properties we already own. At this time, we own 10 properties.
Awesome.
And we just started this fund in May of this year. So it's a brand new startup with 10 properties, no debt, and you can own equity interest in that if you have the risk tolerance. It's not guaranteed. Pretty safe, though. It's backed by all the properties we own. And we ended up buying a property up in Northeast Texas in August that came with, unbeknownst to us, it's 15 plus acres, heavily wooded with pine trees and ready for forestry.
Okay.
But we ended up getting mineral rights on some producing gas wells.
Okay.
Totally out of nowhere. We totally unexpected that. Now, there's a right of redemption. The prior owners have a right of redemption. I'm happy to go into that at any point in time you want to, Paul, but we are the owners day one, subject to the prior owner's right of redemption.
Okay. Yeah, that's great and good perspective for people who are curious about, the crowdfunding opportunity you have. Like, is that an ownership of like individual houses, or because it's a fund, it's ownership in the fund of the 10 houses?
That's a good question. You get an equity interest in each property. So in our first 10 purchase, only 2 of them are structures. Everything else is raw land, vacant lots, acreage. So you have equity, 60% equity in the profits from each one of those parcels.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. And I guess, is it a cash flow play? Is it an equity play? Is it both?
Well, It's more of an equity play.
Okay.
The time horizon is pretty minimal. I'm telling everybody a year and a half before they'll see profits. How because of the right of redemption. Our property that we bought in May we're doing a rehab on it. It was a home in a small town called Sinton, Texas, down by Corpus Christi. And we have been renovating it now since June, just doing a punch out list right now and going to put it on the market. So it'll be our first sale, most likely, and that'll generate some profits. However, we do have 6 other properties. We don't put them on the market until the redemption period's over because we're going to try to get 70 to 80 cents on the dollar. And we want to be able to provide a title policy to the buyer, and no title company will issue title insurance until the redemption period is over.
Sure.
It's relatively a short-term hold in the big scheme of things.
Yeah.
But it's not generating cash flow. We have not yet.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great to know. And I'm sure someone's asking the question of like redemption period. Like tell us more about what that is so we know.
Okay. So in Texas, every state's a little bit different. Sure. But in Texas, we have what's called redeemable tax sales. And this basically is the highest priority lien on the property, even higher than a mortgage. The only higher lien is another municipality lien, like a weed lien, they call it, if you didn't mow the grass, or IRS. But if there's a mortgage, that lien is extinguished, wiped out at the auction. So in Texas, there's 2 redemption periods. If it's not a homestead, meaning it's raw land, second home, a condo, anything commercial property that's not homesteaded, there's a 180-day right of redemption. So when we're the high bidder, day 1, we get what's called a sheriff's deed. So we have immediate ownership to the property, subject to the prior owner's right of redemption. If they are able to redeem the property, they have to pay us what we paid plus a 25% penalty, which in essence is a 50% first year yield. I see you got a little smile on your face.
Yeah.
What do you find interesting about that?
Well, I mean, 50% yield, right? Like that's stuff you get out of bed for. At least I do. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's worst case scenario. I mean, we're an ownership deal where other states, they bid on the lien and interest, how much interest you're willing to bid. There's only 7 states that are as favorable for this business as Texas. I could name them: Georgia, Tennessee, Hawaii, which is we're going to be expanding to. It's on our business model.
Awesome.
Relatively soon. But these are called redeemable deed states, and other states like Florida. I bought some liens in Colorado, just kind of get my feet wet, understand how that works.
Yeah.
But only 3% of liens ever lead to ownership in lien states.
Okay.
In Texas, it's just the opposite. I bought over 60 properties and only had 3 redeemed. So it's really an ownership equity play rather than interest. The other, if it is homestead, if it's an ag exempt or mineral right property, 2-year right of redemption. So instead of 6 months, it's 2 years. The former owner can redeem the property. If they do, they have to pay us a 25% penalty year 1. If it's in year 2, it's a 50% penalty.
And 25 or 50% penalty, like on what? On
the money we bought, the holding cost. We're allowed to get reimbursed and get the penalty on any money we spend to maintain and repair the property.
Okay.
Legal costs, property taxes, all of our holding costs. We can't upgrade, and make substantial improvements. But I mean, we could, but we wouldn't get the penalty on that money if it got redeemed.
Sure.
So part of my team's success, and I have 4 managing partners that are like me out in the field looking at the properties before we bid at the auction. Our underwriting process is we're really looking for, we're staying 2 counties away from the metro markets. We're not in Austin, Houston, because there's so many people bidding, and it's very competitive. Hard to find the deals there. In fact, Austin, for the first time ever, June of 2024, went to online auctions. By state statute, the auctions have to be held at the first Tuesday at 10 a.m. at the courthouse steps. Well, Texas is way behind the curve on this online auctions, but now about 30% of the counties are conducting the auctions online, which really opens up a huge amount of inventory for people who know what they're doing.
Sure. Yeah. Have you then found more competition then with that?
Yep. You can, after the auction's over, you can see all the bidding, how many bidders there were and who was the high bidder. So there's some hedge funds that we're competing with, pretty large hedge funds. Seemed like, well, I know one of them out of Houston has $150 million on the books and deeds. And I run into them about half the counties I'm bidding in.
Interesting. Okay. Okay, great. So that helps someone for like, those kind of starting out, right? Doing that or IRA, putting money there, letting that grow, and then, investing at some point. For people who are like having that 50 to 250, again, kind of semi-liquid sort of piece, like what is then the next like recommendation and thought in terms of what they should do and kind of invest in? And what have you done as you've been in that experience?
Well, even though I love real estate, I'm really partial. My business was focused on safe money, and I absolutely love something called fixed indexed annuities. Not really for people under 40, but it's ideal for some of everybody's money if you're over 40.
Okay.
Because it's guaranteed, your principal's protected. And annuities is kind of a bad word in some people's vocabulary. There's a company, I won't mention their name, but they're always on the TV and the radio. They hate annuities.
Okay.
You heard of them?
I'm trying to think of who it is, but I'll go research them afterwards. So
okay, yeah, the principal, it's an individual's name. He owns like the second largest position in one of the major insurance companies that sells annuities. So he's kind of talking out of both ends of his mouth. But what he really hates and what I dislike is something called variable annuities, and they, by definition, they vary. They go up, they go down, they go up. They have a lot of fees. And they're what really give annuities a bad name. The fixed index annuities is the best of both worlds. When the market's up, your annuity's up. When the market goes down, you stay up. You might get a zero on your policy anniversary from year to year, but you don't give back what you gained in prior years. So it's an income, if you like me, I'm 66 now. I have guaranteed life. I have three sources of guaranteed lifetime income. I have my Social Security, I have my VA pension from veteran, and I have annuity lifetime payout that also acts as a protection against the risk of long-term care. If I ever need care, my annuity is going to double each month for 60 months. So it's income. It should be part of, most people, if they, your assets, I like to say it like this, Paul, assets can be lost, stolen, swindled, divorced, sued, but annuities in Texas are protected from creditors, liens, lawsuits, and judgments. So you got the creditor protection aspect of it. They're just ideal, the right type of annuities. Some annuities are designed to put more money in the agent's pocket. Other ones are designed to put more money in the insured's pocket. And those are the ones I recommend.
How does someone know if it's the right one or not?
How would someone know? They need to ask whoever's telling them about the annuity, ask, what's your commission? What are the fees? Are there any fees? What's the cap? How much upside? And those kind of questions.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So you said over 40 should consider it. Like what's so magical about 40?
Well, take your age. It's the old rule of 100. Have you heard of that principle?
Okay. Yeah.
You take your age, subtract it from 100. If you're 50, of course, that's easy math, 50-50. You should have half your nest eggs in safe havens and 50% in higher risk, depending on your risk tolerance. If
sure.
65 like me, you shouldn't have any more than 35% of your nest egg at risk, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a great and a good thought. One thing I've found is that oftentimes people just resort to real estate or, we raise funds for oil and gas. And so, people will invest in oil and gas as well for that cash flow. But, fixed index annuities are beneficial for that aspect in addition. So it's a great, to your point, based on sort of age, but also just, again, what you're trying to accomplish is important as well. For as you've kind of grown your net worth and access to capital and things of that nature, then I have this, concept of kind of the third stage, right? Which is like when you have 250 plus of, semi-liquid funds or, fully liquid funds. What have you, done with that? Have you invested in, syndications? I mean, certainly you're, raising for your own funds, and you mentioned your viewpoint on real estate and fixed index annuities. But what have you gone through and invested in kind of down that level?
Let me share my background and my experience with opportunity zones.
Yeah,
if you're
please.
in that higher net worth area, you're probably seeing some capital gains from one source or another.
Sure.
And in 2017, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act came out with something called opportunity zones. And it's the best gift. It's like a 1031 exchange and a Roth IRA got married. It had a little kid named. It's when you think of opportunity zones, immediately you'll think of Blythe communities, low income, and you had to be in the lowest income census tracts to be designated opportunity zone. But the incentive is if you have a 10-year time horizon, all your appreciation in an opportunity zone fund, a qualified opportunity zone fund, comes out totally income tax free. So I would encourage anyone that's high net worth, had a capital gain experience from the sale of anything. In my case, I sold my business, a book of annuity business. I bought a motorhome right off the showroom floor, traveled 17 states looking at these designated opportunity zones, wound up in Rockport, Texas. 85% of the whole county is opportunity zone.
Okay.
And the reason is it's a destination. You have so many second homeowners here from Austin, San Antonio, Houston, and they report their incomes where they have their primary residence. So over here, it's an anomaly. It's a beautiful, it's not what you think of the Fifth Ward in Houston, most opportunity zones. It's really it's a prime tourist destination. George Strait's the biggest spokesperson for Rockport, Texas. If I tell people, call City Hall, ask them to put you on hold, you'll hear a commercial from George Strait. I love coming to Rockport, Texas. Anyway, so learn all you can about opportunity zones. If you're in that net worth and seeing some taxable, 2025 is the end of the current tax rates. It's all going to sunset unless Congress changes. So we're in a really short window now for people to make some tax plays that may not be available at the end of 2025 as the 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act is going to sunset. And we are right now, Paul, in the absolute lowest tax rates in my lifetime, certainly in your lifetime.
Yeah.
And I know in my lifetime as well.
Yeah. Opportunity zones are fascinating. So just to kind of repeat what you said. So they do expire December 31st of 2026. And if you do hold them for 10 years, then there's not income tax or not income tax, sorry.
There's no capital gains tax.
Capital gains. Yes. We don't like capital gains. That's why I don't like, talking about it, because we don't want it. We want the capital gains, right? But we want to defer or eliminate, right? So holding that property for 10 years. One thing that I found talking to people who are familiar with opportunity zones or who have invested in them, they say the returns aren't as great. So meaning like cash flow or the properties may not appreciate as much. My question to you would be, is that hogwash? Because I've, seen different perspectives.
I think the verdict's really not out yet. They only came out in actually 2018 was the very first OZ funds established. I know of some very successful ones. Caliber is on the exchange, publicly traded out of Phoenix. They're generating some decent returns. There's 2 or 3 other large, very successful OZ funds. And then you can even have a business set up in Opportunity Zone. You can have a qualified Opportunity Zone business, which you're totally control. Of course, get legal and tax advice.
Yeah, sure.
Set something like that up, but it's worth exploring.
Yeah, definitely. And so I've seen it like on the east side of Austin, right? Or even most of the real estate I've purchased is actually in an opportunity zone. Now the difference is that I purchased it as a second home or a primary residence, so I don't get the tax benefits of the opportunity zone. And so it's important not just to invest and buy, but invest in the actual opportunity zone, not just invest in the property. But
actually, you have to make substantial improvements. If there's an existing structure, so you bought a hotel or apartment building in opportunity zone, you have to substantially improve equal to the amount of the purchase into that project. Within 3 years, I think, maybe 2 years, you have to make substantial improvements.
Okay. And then that starts the intention of
10
the
years.
ability to have it. Okay. Yeah. Now is it 10 years from when you invest or when you purchase or when you do the developments?
10 years from when you, if you're either a general partner or a limited partner, whenever you invest your capital.
Okay. Yeah. That's great to know. We were talking about before, you've also had a seasoned career in an RIA firm as well, but what are other things you found to invest in or be knowledgeable of, or things that you've done as you've progressed through your career of investing, and then also what you're doing right now?
Okay. So I'm considered a pioneer in the self-directed IRA world. I don't know if you're familiar with an attorney by the name of John Hyre, Hyre, in Puerto
Not
Rico.
offhand, but I'll look them up.
Hyre. He's the absolute guru in tax planning and very direct speaker, doesn't beat around the bush. He's $1,000 an hour attorney, but he's well worth the money. He coined me as a pioneer in self-directed IRAs. And I started buying property in Austin, Texas at the Travis County Courthouse steps in 1993 using a self-directed IRA. Nobody heard of it back then. I mean, IRAs hadn't even been out, but maybe 13 years? They came out in the early 80s. 401ks. Mine was a 401k. I rolled over to an IRA. So take control. If you do have to set up these self-directed IRAs with custodians and find, someone that you like and know and trust. I can recommend a handful that I've worked with, but buying property within your IRA or especially within a Roth is a great play, in my opinion. You can't live in the property. You can't even repair the property. You can't have any self-dealings, but you can totally be a passive investor in real estate with a self-directed IRA.
What do you mean you can't renovate? Did you say you can't renovate the property?
Well, you can, but you can't do the work. You have to pay someone arm's length.
Yeah, it's not a sweat equity piece. Okay, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And that's oftentimes why people, invest in syndications through their IRAs, multifamily, oil and gas, a number of different things. Yeah, some do buy the individual property, but yeah, that's a good distinction to know. If you personally buy the property, that you have some of those restrictions versus if you have a general
a management team or a management company, make those decisions or whatever on any improvements. You just can't do the work yourself. I have an interesting apartment multifamily experience I'd love to share with you.
Oh yeah, please go ahead. Because most people start investing in multifamily. So this is going to be
multifamily. Of course, I went to Rich Dad Poor Dad's conference and paid extra money to learn all I could from him. And I bought an apartment complex in Bridge City, Texas, which is near Beaumont, just outside of Port Arthur, in 2008. 45 days after we closed on the property, Hurricane Ike made landfall and flooded the whole city of Bridge City, Texas, including our apartments. Of course, we were fully insured because we had a loan on the property, and the lenders require you have flood insurance, wind insurance. We made out like bandits because we bought it as a renovation what they call it, value add.
Value add, yep, okay.
Yeah. So bought it as a value add. However, that was 2008. The economy, not only did we get the flood in 45 days, I learned how to manage a flood claim during FEMA. But, now it's like several times a year somewhere in the U.S. we're going through an extreme scenario in the Carolinas. I think part of Tennessee has been affected by this current disaster. But anyway, all the jobs left Port Arthur. It ended up being a 10-year hold on this apartment complex, but we ended up making out fine. It's backed by real estate, just like my current offering with the Rec CF. You have ownership interest in something hard, a tangible asset. Very hard to lose money.
Yeah, that's a great point. And good experience for you as well, even though it wasn't planned. It wasn't part of the underwriting to have those hurricanes. They seem to be everywhere this year, and hit and landfall and everything. So great insight. One thing that I always like to ask, in this podcast is this idea of this is the investor's guide to joy, right? And so as people are investing and living their lives and experiencing more joy in their lives because they're making good investments, but they're also recognizing that they want to live their life, not just be focused on the income that they have. Is what is like the one thing that you would leave in this guide? So like a mindset, a mantra, a quote, like what is something that you would kind of write, if you will, in this guide to joy that you've had from your experience?
Well, I would put up there, top of my list would be something I learned from my mentor, Clement Stone.
Okay.
And he lived to age 100. At one time, he gave Nixon, before Watergate, like $5 million. He's a huge philanthropist, and he owned an insurance company I went to work for.
Yeah.
But he taught me many, many, many things. But one thing I would put in that list is you can have anything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want, as long as you don't violate the will of God or the rights of your fellow man. So I'll say it again. You can have anything in life. It's biblical. You can have anything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want, as long as you don't violate the will of God or the rights of your fellow man. That's something to live by.
Yeah, it definitely gets the wheels turning and thinking of, what is that, ideal life that, you want? What type of people are you going to help? And what are those people desiring to do? As well as, what are the, rights and intentions like that you need to follow like with the Lord, such that, you stay within those boundaries.
Yep. Awesome.
That's great. Well, John,
I love what you're doing with your Investor's Guide to Joy. Makes a lot of sense. I really appreciate you having me on today's podcast.
Yeah, John, thanks for coming on. You gave a lot of good insight and different perspectives. And I'll put in the show notes how people can connect with you or speak with you more.
Wonderful.
Hey, one last thing before you go. I wanted to share my mission while on this earth. And it's to help educate investors about different opportunities, share mindset tips on how to change our perspective, and different things to really experience more joy in our lives. If this resonates with you at all and you enjoyed this episode, please share it with friends and others to help grow the community around the Investor's Guide to Joy. Leaving a 5-star review also helps grow the show and get connected to more people and share our experiences along the way. Thanks so much for joining, and can't wait for you to listen to the next episode.